What is going on, good people? It is your boy, the high, the noon, the crypto. Da-na-na, da-na-na. Sorry, I was watching some westerns. Uh, but yeah, what's going on? For real, this time. It's your boy back with another one. You know, uh, it's time to shine, baby. It's time to shine at the time it's recording. Because it usually takes a little bit to put it out versus when I actually record it. This is New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, man. We did it. 2024 is about to officially turn into 2025. And we are live this year because, according to every measurable metric in crypto history, the halving, the what is it? The January after a halving year is super de duper lit. Along with going into a new administration, when I first got into crypto, it was going into 2021. Excuse me. We had the election. Biden won. That next year, things went bananas. Things were already going bananas. But yeah, I definitely remember 2021. Very, very intense time. So hopefully we have similar price action, price discovery in many cases. But that's why we're here. And if it doesn't happen, guess what? It doesn't happen. But one can only hope. We feel like we've been waiting a long time to see some kind of, proverbial light at the end of the tunnel as far as mad gains. And, just through deep thought and deep, self reflection, I've realized that, this crypto shit, man, it's it's funny how it's characterized as quote unquote get rich quick. And I always tell people that it's not a get rich quick scheme. It is a potentially get rich quicker than other things scheme. Of course, for every one person that puts $50 into stupid fucking token and it goes to 1 million, there's 100,000 that put 1,000, 2,000, $5,000 into stupider fucking token, and it all goes so close to zero that you might as well call it zero. So it definitely, this market, this casino, this whatever, it's very wild, it's very unforgiving, and it continues to evolve. This is an evolving discipline as this discipline grows. There's more new things learned every day. There's more new technological advancements that happen every day, and it will leave you behind. It'll leave you so far behind that you might as well just give up. Not like give up like that, but like give up your dreams of crypto if you're not willing to stay on top of it. Um, on my channel, I talk about the hex, the pulse chain, the pulse x, and sometimes I dib and dab into greater psychological things as far as just my casual observations, um, and just idle thoughts. Just putting thoughts out there. I really have no real format for it. I sit around until I think of some things that I want to talk about, and then come on here and forget literally everything that I wanted to talk about because I don't organize these thoughts. This is just raw, straight from the gut. Usually one take Drake, so I get down. But I just wanted to speak on a few things, man. As crypto itself is becoming more and more mainstream every day, I get a lot of casual conversations from people who have seen me talking about crypto for the last few years on social media, right? Now, I'm all into, you know, Pulse Chain, X, Pulse X, etc. Several long-term stakes that I plan on giving to my nieces and nephews. If I ever choose that to rear children, they have a 55-55 stake waiting for them, in hopes of the future that one day this technology is still here. But there's a lot of learning that comes with this, and I remember when I first kind of started watching Richard, and he used to always say the ways to get rich was being early to something good. Then he talks about when he's arguing his Bitcoin points, and he said, when is the best time to buy? When the founder owned all the coins. Well, truthfully, the best time to buy would have been as soon as you learned about crypto to kind of start mining it. He talks about him mining at 50 block rewards. I think he says first quarter of 2011, right? And I always think, especially in relation to post chain now, IPFS and the bridge and not being on the exchanges, and this is coming off the heels of the delisting of Mexi, is I always think about how much of that do I agree with, and then how much of that do I'm not gonna say disagree with, but I don't feel sympathy for what is the quote unquote reason why they do stuff like that. You know, um, I've the barrier of entry to post chain is not easy. It is not. There's a lot of gymnastics. There's a lot of things you have to do to get into this. I will never counter argue that. But one thing I've learned in relations to just human psychology, because you know I'm old enough to have lived through really the internet getting really popping and where it's at now, right? I remember I was an adult before Instagram was this all powerful algorithm. I remember when I felt like there was a point in time. I remember Facebook when you couldn't just make an account. Somebody had to invite you, and you needed like a college email to make a Facebook account, right? And with anything that comes with any degree of difficulty, as technology has gotten better, just the casual person has gotten lazier in their attempts to want to navigate the trials and tribulations to lead to proverbial pay dirt. That's why I kind of don't really have a lot of sympathy. Um, I for those who say they want to do something and then see that is you actually have to put forth some effort and then don't do it. Now I got a bunch of on boards that I helped on board during the post X sacrifice, and regardless to what they may say or how they may feel about things, it's immaterial because where else? Even if post chain proverbially goes to zero, they couldn't give you another play, another idea, another scenario or situation in which you could have gotten potentially what we stand to gain, right? So what I'm trying to say is like I learned about this. I thought it was a good idea because I'm very smart. I saw it as a good opportunity because I like taking advantage of opportunities. And so I put it out there into the universe. And people who either believed in me, maybe just thought it was a good opportunity, or maybe they just wanted to take a swing and get rich. They followed me into this abyss, and whatever happens, happens. Because there's no scenario, because I know this because it's been going on 4 years since the post X sacrifice. I think post X sacrifice started 2021 around this time, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so you're talking about, technically 3 years, but whatever. They've yet to come up with one single idea and present it to me in which, hey, I think this is a good idea to as I always like to say in my in my to when I'm gambling, to get us out of poverty, right? I always say I may put a parlay in and say, hey, this is the day we escape poverty, guys, right? There's nothing. Been radio silent. So, you know, I really don't focus on the the potential complaining of the fact that their coins might be down right now. Because if you're the DCA in another method, all right, you would be doing well, right? But I'm not here to like do that. But it's just something I think about because in many ways there has to be some kind of like I pose this question. I put it like this, right? I pose this question. to a group of friends the other day. I said, listen, imagine hypothetically, you could take a time machine and you could go back into 2000. You go back to this time 2008, right? So 2008, you have the housing market crash. 2009, Bitcoin's invented, right? So you know everything about you. So you have today's knowledge, right? I do you one even better. Say I give you 5 months to learn about all the things you could exploit to get rich. Going back, if you had a time machine to go back in 2008, would you do it? Right? And everybody's like, yeah, yeah, of course I do it. Of course I do it. But that's just a trick question because if that was the case, then why are you bitching about the onboarding and the post chain right now? Right? In my opinion, the only thing that's different between post chain and Bitcoin is that as of right now, nothing. Right? Because who would have thought Bitcoin did the things it would have done? It's easy in hindsight to be like, oh, that was the layup of a century, right? Only the highest performing asset in human history that's ever existed. My first time hearing about Bitcoin was 2010, 2011. I was in the military, right? And my friend, he's talking about Bitcoin, and we're like, bro, get out of here with that lame computer nerd shit. We're trying to play Call of Duty, right? So think about that right there, right? Fumbling, 2010, 2011, right? Very young, didn't know no better, right? Next time I hear about Bitcoin, really, it's like 2014. I mean, like, really hear about it. I'm still in the military. I'm actually in a whole different country now. One of my troops, he's trading Forex and he's talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum. He's trading it on Forex. So he's not even using it in the traditional crypto sense. He's trading it on Forex. And because I like making money, now I didn't even know what Forex was, right? Just a part-time pimp, a part-time hustler at this point. But guess what I don't do? My knowledge stopped right there. So the hindsight is what makes everything, self-actualization if you think about it. So you can draw all these parallels, man. You can draw all these parallels. And people, either they want it or they don't. And the people who want it will have and always will find a way, right? In many ways, I think we're better suited today than we are in more recent, in the last year or so. I think that there's a lot to think about as far as the growth of what post chain can be. I look at it like this, right? If you're going up against an enemy and everything that enemy has done was meant to destroy you, to break you, you go to rock bottom and rock bottom doesn't break you or destroy you, there's literally nothing, nowhere to go but up. I don't really think, like I said, the only thing, and I think I said this in my last video, I'm not sure. I think the only thing left that could really like a proverbial last nail in the coffin would be the OA selling. There's no amount of lawsuits. There's no amount of, Richard hasn't been active in the community. Many would argue that has been to the detriment of it. Me, on the other hand, I think that, hey man, you got to go up against these 3-letter people. You got to, it's easier to say what I would or what somebody would do, but they don't know the kind of pressure that that he could be under, right? Or maybe he just don't give a fuck, right? There's always that idea, but regardless, he hasn't been involved in community, minus some cryptic tweets and some pre-recorded messages, but he has put out there that, hey, one, I'm safe. I got lawyers fighting for me, so there is that part of it. But I mean, at one point in time, just March of this year, technically, because it is the last day of 2024, we were back at stock prices on BOS and POSX. Just recently, fucking Post Hex, had was damn near encroaching on its quote unquote all-time high for the post chain release. Just a couple weeks ago, Hex on Ethereum was damn near close to a penny. It was like 0.2 zeros and a 6. We were popping pretty well. And then we got a nice little retracement, whatever. But think about the things that we've had to fight against and think about where we sit at right now. We sit at a time where you can still get low prices. When I used to first start onboarding people, I used to always show them the Polygon Matic chart, right? Polygon Matic chart, if you go look at it, pre the last bull market, so pre 2021, that line of just trading sideways is just it's just a long line of trading sideways and then up, up hard as hell, right? And it's like, listen, man, if you'd have just bought any time between this extremely long time you've been up, it doesn't matter where you was at before, because if you just bought once down here, you would have been up massively, right? Because it went up 200x. So one buy at that price at which you had, I think like a year or two to buy it, you'd have been up. Same thing with this, with Pulse X, with Hex. If the shit don't mill over and die, which I don't expect it to because it hasn't did it, you'd have bought any time, realistically, in the last kind of like 2 years, damn near it hadn't been 2 years technically, but year and a half, you're potentially going to do amazingly well once this thing goes up. You're going to do better than if you would have sacrificed, depending on how much you sacrifice, but that's just the way these things work. It's hard work. It's not easy. You know, the only easy day is yesterday. That remains true. And it just you have to have the vision, you have to have the foresight. Think about crypto Twitter, right? Think about its mainstream. What's promoted on crypto Twitter? Everything that clearly is centralized, opposition controlled, VC'd, everything that, even if you're not a crypto purist, right? Everything that's still promoted is still wrong categorically, right? It's wrong in the sense of we have very good knowledge that is less likely to work than what has been proven to work, right? You feel me? So here's an example, right? Buying and holding, buying something early, buying something good early, and holding. Actually, you don't even have to buy something good early. Just buying and holding something that is good will always beat trading, right? If you had 1,000 people and and 1,000 of them bought Bitcoin at the Christmas top of 2017, 2018, I think, of 21,000, and just held it, they'd be up today. If you had 1,000 people that bought both the double top of the last cycle at 65 and 69K, they would be up right now. I would be hard pressed to find any trader who would have, one, bought the top or even sold the top and continued trading for the last few years and be up massively, right? So, but yet that's all that's promoted. Trading, buying meme coins. Think about this, right? I know times are hard, right? When has it ever been in human history logical and or advised to put your money in something that was a joke? That's promoted as a joke, right? I'm gonna tell you somebody who should put their money in something that's promoted as a joke and they still hedge their bets. Comedians. Their whole fucking life is telling jokes and being funny, and they still hedge their bets. You know why? Because funny is subjective, one, and two, funny might not always pay the bills. I know a lot of funny people. Not a lot of them are comedians. I know a lot of people who work at warehouses, and they're doing fairly decent, right? So they're promoting meme coin trading. They're promoting putting your money on centralized exchanges, right? They're promoting not self-custody wallets, even in the sense of not being on a centralized exchange, right? So you're getting promoted all the stuff, and don't get me wrong, all this is extremely easy to do, right? But if you're in the U.S. specifically, you either have a PayPal, Zelle, or not Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, some kind of money transferring device where you can quote unquote go buy crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So they've made it extremely easy, but that's not even the point of being easy. I think I got completely off the point I was gonna make. I'm gonna go back to it, and if I double talked, y'all be okay. So you could go back in time, right? And you knew that, hey, Bitcoin comes out January 2009, but in order to mine Bitcoin when it first come out, you would have to buy all these pieces, put a computer together, maybe even learn a little soldering so you could, you had to do all this stuff. Now imagine if if somebody had that opportunity to do that. The casual person would still wouldn't do it. They still wouldn't do it, right? Because people are just inherently, I'm not gonna say inherently lazy. Totally um that's totally flagrant to say. But people always talk about what they could do or what they would have done instead of what they will do. Why won't they put in the hard work now? I literally have a friend right now that tell me he won't invest in crypto because if he put in, let's just say he put in hypothetically $5,000 and he hit 1,000x on it, he would be mad that he didn't put in $25,000. So he just won't invest in it. And I said that's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Oh, my bad, excuse me. He said so he'd rather invest in Apple or Tesla because he puts that money in and it's gonna do a 1x, a 2x, a 3x. This is his words per se. And I said that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. That just doesn't make no sense. That's why nobody will remember your name. Because only the people who are taking the risk are the ones who are remembered. You know? And when we win, and think about it, right? Anybody you on board today has skipped 99% of the bullshit. They have gotten they went to the proverbial front of the line. If you manage to onboard somebody today, right? And and it doesn't go into zero, right? They've missed the sacrifice, they've missed the 2 weeks, they missed the as far as 90% down against all tokens, right? That's all of them. They missed all that. And they still look at you in the face and be like, well, what about Fartcoin? It's comical, man. It's comical. But we're just too early. We're in the right place, but it's just not the right time. Sometimes these things just take a little bit longer to realize, man. There's a lot that are you willing to hold this stuff for 10 years to get rich? Right? That's really what it comes down to. Do we think that the prices should have been way better by now? Of course, nobody doubts that. But how can you deny that it's just really a matter of time before it happens? It's truly, and I'm not even talking about like the new administration, I'm not even talking about none of that. I'm just talking about what is due can't be denied, right? Think about think about modern day basketball, which a lot of people argue fucking sucks, but whatever. You don't think Shaq couldn't have done some of the things that you see these 7 foot guys doing today? No, of course he could have. He was just before his time. He wasn't allowed to do that. He wasn't allowed to bring the ball up the court. His position was get your ass down there in that post, get some position, easy to, right? Think about the things that we're experiencing that haven't been allowed to come into fruition yet. We haven't been allowed to be able to punch through the noise, man. If one thing, Elon Musk acquisition of Twitter, whether it's all a psyop or whether maybe there was just like some kind of glitch in the matrix that allowed us to see the truth, they've controlled the media, have controlled the narratives they want you to see. There is no reason. Even think about this. There a leaked document that showed all these promoters who are being paid all this massive money to get people into these chains that we know as crypto enthusiasts, or have an on-off switch, to have admin switch and go down regularly, that are not good, right? There's no accident that people talk as bad about Pulse Chain as they do, right? These people they're puppets, they're paid. And we realize that when they don't want the narrative to be shown to you, when they want to control the narrative and they want to move it a certain way, they have the power to do that. And it's really up to either just time or just enough people eventually being awakened to the truth to see what's real from what's fake. And time always wins. Time heals all wounds, and time always wins. You know, there's no, there's, what does they say? Nobody's defeated Father Time yet. That saying, and we got time on our side. It may not be the timeline that a lot of people expect it to be on. at all. But that's the funny thing about time. Sometimes it's your time when you step up to the bat. Sometimes you don't see your it's not your time till much later. But when it is your time, do you capitalize off of it? Do you? I have no doubt in my mind, and like I told my brother, there's people in 5 years they're gonna ask us, "Hey man, you heard about this blockchain called Pulse Chain?" Man, I'm about to ape all in. It's the next big thing. And Pulse Chain in 5 years could be at a penny, right? They'd be like, "Oh, it's just a penny. If it ever goes to $1." You heard that saying before? Meanwhile, here we are in 2024 trying to beg people to buy it at four zeros and a five, four zeros and a six, as low as four zeros and a three. But in 5 years, the narrative can be completely different. We've seen it. We've seen it, man, over and over and over again. And the only thing that really matters is how strong is your conviction, right? It really, actually, that doesn't even really matter. You could just put your ledger or treasure or whatever you're using. You just put it in a shoebox and put it in the attic and forget about it for 5 years. You don't have to do nothing else with this shit. Either it goes to zero or it goes to Valhalla. And there's maybe nothing that you as the average person can even do to affect either one of those situations. You can move around the world, you can find love, get married, have kids. In 5 years, will it have seemed like that was quicker, right? And put time in perspective. As I started this saying earlier, and I try to wrap this up. If damn, how did I start earlier? I just literally had this thought in my mind. Oh man, maybe I need a nap. All right. What is the consequence of time, right? To let something come to fruition. This is a get rich quicker, right? That's what crypto is, man. It is a get rich quicker. It's not a get rich quick. There's few people that get rich quick, truthfully, right? And when I say get rich quick, I don't mean you take 100,000 and it 10x's and goes to 1 million, because that will require you having 100,000 first. I'm talking about you taking 10,000 and turning into like 5 million, right? What's 5 years in the grand scheme now? If you went today and joined the military, you have to work in the military for 20 years to get a pension. If you went today and you started ninth grade, you would have to wait 4 years to graduate high school. Many ways the same with college, depending on your degree, right? That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about 100 years. People been in gold for 20 plus years and only seen a 1x, but you don't hear them bitching and moaning. People have been in crypto. People have been in real estate. And unless you happen to buy after the housing market crash, do you think you're seeing a 10x? Think about, there's this whole jokes going around about boomers buying their houses in the 60s and 70s for a box of raisins, and they're selling them for $7 million right now. Yeah, that's 50 years later. Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys in what? The 80s, I think? Let's just say he bought it for $100 million in the 80s, and now it's worth $6 billion. Yeah, that's 40 years later. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you to not have feelings. I'm just sitting up here and tell you to, to be strong in your convictions, because there is no middle ground on this. Either it goes to zero or it goes to Valhalla, right? You pick what side you want to stand on, and then you defend that side, because only time will reveal what it actually do. But I know from my objectivity viewpoint that I'm sitting on, it doesn't really matter no more, because you can't kill these things. You really can't. Look at XRP. It's as centralized as they come. And there are people have more hope than it sounds like the average post chain person has nowadays, which is insane to me. But maybe that's just some ignorance is bliss. Maybe that's just some, hey, we've already dealt with the worst. Should be all up here from here, To quote Richard Pryor in the movie Which Way Is Up, great movie. You should go watch it if you've never seen it. Ain't nowhere to go from rock bottom but up. So with that, we're roughly around 30 minutes. You find folks, just remember, it's a long battle, so even longer war. And sometimes these things they take good time to come to fruition. We've traded sideways for a long time. We've traded under sacrifice price for a long time. And I'm not one of these people that's going to say, oh, in quarter one of 2025 we're going to go up, because it might not be quarter one of 2025. But in hindsight, it's always obvious that all you needed to do was just take more time and maybe put a little bit more money. If you'd have done that in any crypto that is considered a serious crypto, right? That's considered good. And we consider this to be good because it's been operating almost 2 years with no functions, with no failures, no bugs, no nothing. Bitcoin had 2 inflation bugs. Ethereum literally had to fork its own blockchain. We've encountered none of that. And in my opinion, those two things are 100 times more detrimental than Richard being sued by the SEC. That's just my opinion. We haven't had that. And in lieu of us having that, I think we're sitting pretty. But that's just my opinion. It's definitely not financial advice. And it's just to be taken as needed. And people who are serious and people who want to change their life, they will get up and they will learn the things. They'll wake up early for the opportunity. They'll go to school for an opportunity. They do all these things for an opportunity. So the people who expect to be set back and spoon fed like a fucking baby, hey man, they can buy when it's on Coinbase. They can buy when it's 10 cents, and they're like, oh, if it just goes to $10, they can be the people that buy that. For us though, hey man, bring your followers to a well that only they can drink from. Be easy, be peasy. Happy New Year's.